Okay. Do I have to place things at certain places? Kind of. I mean, there's a lot of freedom, but let's take the jade egg, for instance, which is right now in my hand. As you see, this spot right here is glowing. Any spot on the local map that's glowing, I can place an artifact. But like these two spots right here are not glowing. That means I cannot place an artifact there. What determines whether I could place an artifact at a certain location is whether or not the area next to it is a town, like Domina, Gato Grottos, Polpata Harbor, places like that. So as you can see, all three spaces right next to Domina are lit. Domina is a town and I can place anything next to it at any time. But other areas like Midness Ruins, Alkan Mines, Tower Liers, stuff like that, they are not towns, and I have to clear the primary mission in order to be able to place an artifact next to it. So Midness Ruins, I completed the first mission, which is Tea Time of Danger. So even if Domina wasn't here, I would be able to place an artifact here because I completed the Midness Ruins. But like Tower Liers, I have not completed the Looking Glass Tower, so thus I cannot place an artifact here. But let's say with this spot, I have not completed Tea Time of Danger. This space will still be eligible to place an artifact because Domina makes it eligible. There's a few exceptions with how artifacts are placed. Let's take, for instance, either the Rusty Anchor or the Torch of Coral have the same handicap. So, as you saw with the Jade Egg, I had all three spots next to Domina and the spot next to home. But here, with the Rusty Anchor, as you see, I only have this spot. The rules with the Torch of Coral and the Rusty Anchor is that a spot in one of the 8 surrounding squares has to be a water space. So in this case, you can barely see it on the map, but the spot just south of where the Rusty Anchor is right now is a water space. It has to be touching one of those spots in any one of the 8 directions in order to be able to place this one or the Torch of Coral. The only other exceptions, basically, with regards to artifact placing, is the Pirate's Hook, which requires you to place it on a water space. It has to be a water space. So, like if I had the Pirate's Hook, I would have to place it like right here. The other exceptions to placing stuff is the Brooch of Love and the Sword of Mana. Those two artifacts can be placed on either land or water space. Everything else has to be on land. But those two can be placed on water. So that's kind of the rules of the artifacts. But the reason why I place certain things where I do has to deal with enemy strength and movement spaces. Enemy strength is determined in the game by the artifact order as well as position from home. And position at home is determined by the number of movement squares. So Gato is 2 spaces away. So is Alkan Mines. Whereas Midness Ruins is 1 space from home. So I want to kind of keep prominent areas tight to home. That way the enemies are weaker. But if I needed something to be stronger, like for instance in the Dragon storyline, I need some enemies to be level 16. So thus I move it farther out, which makes enemies stronger. It also affects shop, like the equipment that they sell. Which made a deal in this run before, it doesn't anymore. So that's That's why, even though, you know, like I could put like Brutes of Love right here, but that's why I put Brutes of Love right here next to home, because it makes the enemies, including Irwin, weaker. So the other things that do kind of affect enemy strength, but not to too much of an extent, is the mono levels, and that's the little circular things you see in the kind of the lower left corner there. There's 8 elements in the game. It's Lumina, Shade, Dryad, Aura, Salamander, Gnome, Siphid, and Undine. That's in the order it's down in the left there, from left to right. Various enemies have various strengths and weaknesses to the various elements, and the elemental levels will affect their levels, but not really that much that I've noticed. See, like right now, Domina has 2 Aura and 1 Salamander, while everything else is empty. Whereas like Home here, see, it's got 3. You know, it's got 1 Lumina, 3 Dryad, 2 Aura, 2 Salamander, 3 Gnome, and a Siphon. So enemies that are strong to Dryad and Gnome would get a boost. We're gonna get a pretty good boost. But it really doesn't affect enemies' levels that much that I've ever really seen. I know there's a formula out there, but the most prominent things that really affect the elements for purposes of a speed run is the order I place things in and the location from home. Which is why, even though I have these 3 artifacts here, like these 2 I get pretty early, but I don't place them till the very end. I try to avoid placing artifacts as much as possible, unless it's going to affect the ability of me getting 2 artifacts in a mission. So like when I completed Tea Time of Danger, you notice that I got 2 artifacts. I got the Bottled Spirit and the Rusty Anchor. What determines whether or not I get 2 artifacts is determined strictly by how many artifacts I have on that plate in the lower right here. So like right now I have 3 artifacts on the plate. If I completed a mission and I was eligible for both artifacts, so let's say I did right now, I had these artifacts and I go complete, you know, Tea Time of Danger. Let's pretend that Rusty Anchor is something else for the purposes of just argument. Since I have 3 artifacts, if I did not have the Rusty Anchor or the Bottled Spirit at this point, and I had 3 artifacts, I would only get the Bottled Spirit. I would not get the Rusty Anchor. If you have 3 or more, you only get 1 eligible artifact. Whereas if I have 0 to 2, I would get both. It doesn't affect much in this run. I mean, because there's only 3 missions that I get 2 artifacts. And that's Nicola's Business Unusual, the Flame of Hope, and Tea Time of Danger. Everything else I get 1 or none. But it has a bigger effect in a storyline like The Dragon, where I'm constantly getting 2, and I'm actually having to ditch a couple of artifacts at various points, including actually pretty late in the run, where I'm just having to dump an artifact somewhere. But I try to avoid it as much as possible, just to keep enemy levels down. So Moon's Mirror is kind of like one of the few that because I think everything else that I dump is something I use. So yeah, the only one that I really dump early that I don't really use for completing a event is the Moon's Mirror, and the only reason why I'm dumping this early now is because of going for the Brave Blade, which Brave Blade is dropped by Dainslef, which only appears in 3 locations, and the only one I get really in this storyline is the Tower of the Heirs, because the other places he appears in is I know it's the Flames, and I'm trying to think the Flames and the Bone Dragon, which I don't get either artifact in this storyline. My other option would be Goblin. Goblin drops a two-handed axe, Earth Splitter, which has an attack power of 26. But it only appears in 3 places: Makeheave Caverns, White Forest, and the Flames. The last 2, which again I don't visit in this storyline. The only one I get is the Makeheave Caverns, which is the Jade Egg. But I don't complete the Lost I'd have to complete the Lost Princess first. And doing the Lost Princess is not beneficial for me for a run. Because the goblins appear in an area that's blocked by boinks until I complete the Lost Princess. Fucking boinks. Nothing but problems. So basically, going after the Brave Blade is a stronger weapon anyway. I mean, we're talking 37 versus 31 for the Earth Splitter, excuse me. And I can dump Tower of the Airs and not have to complete the mission in order to be able to get Brave Blade. So it's a better option for multiple reasons. So that kind of explains a lot. I hope it's understandable of what's going on, why I'm doing what I'm doing, and such. I mean, there's a lot to consider when you're running. And I've been learning a lot of things by studying the Japanese runs and playing myself, but a lot of changed because of the Japanese runs. And even then, I still do things quite a bit different. I mean, all 3 of their storylines they do based out of the home location. You know, I move the map up 7, right 6, and use that spot for Fairy and Jumi, where everything they do is based off the pretty much either the starting location or like off one space. But I think the reason why they do that is not so much placement of anything, but because they time from when they press start on the title screen. Whereas I time pretty much, I figured out roughly where the game actually starts its in-game timer. I mean, I've got it within a few seconds. So that's also why like if you watch any Japanese run, they always name the character Yu, because of the fact that they're timing from the start. I mean, I'm still using in-game timer anyway, and so are they, which is why fastest speed is forbidden. Both I forbid it for myself, and they forbid it in their community. So that was long-winded.